A bombshell report on the White House's response, revealing who knew what, when, and how much.
It became clear that we were in real trouble.
When was that? Around when was that?
Well, that was probably towards the middle to end of January.
The New York Times says in early January, the National Security Council received a report predicting the spread of the coronavirus to the U.S. The NSC soon began urging officials to draw up plans to quarantine a city the size of Chicago. The Times also detailed a memo from Trump's top trade advisor, Peter Navarro. It predicted 500,000 deaths and trillions of dollars in economic losses in the U.S. because of the virus. And the New York Times reports Trump was aware of Navarro's memo. That memo was issued January 29th. But President Trump says he didn't see it until earlier this month. The newspaper also says Alex Azar, one of America's top health advisors, warned Trump twice about the virus in January.
President Trump has...
And the second time Azar warned the president on January 30th, Trump called him an alarmist. About a month passed. Several measures were put in place, like a travel ban from China, but it wasn't enough for some health officials. The New York Times report documents the biggest pushback the White House faced. On February 25th, Dr. Nancy Messonnier released a public warning. Messonnier is the head of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, part of the CDC. She set off the alarm bells on the possibility of community spread.
It's not so much a question of if this will happen anymore, but rather more a question of exactly when this will happen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Trump was on a plane headed back to the U.S. when the warning was released. He had just wrapped up a trip to India. And he watched from Air Force One as the stock market crashed. The New York Times reports Trump sidelined Alex Azar in response and put his vice president Mike Pence in charge of Azar's task force. Both investigations by the New York Times and the Washington Post report the reason for Trump's slowed response. They both say the president was trying to keep gains made in the markets in preparation for November elections. But he lost the gains he made during his time in office and faces the world's largest and deadliest outbreak to boot. Timothy Ulrich, CGTN.